But most of the people are worried about the security of the records. I mean, you're also aware of the many agencies of government, not just at the state level, also at the federal level, collecting information, almost on a daily basis, one agency after the other. People are wondering, why is it that we're not centralizing data? And what are the rules or what are the laws in place to ensure that if you, by mistake, your identity is stolen, there are laws in place to ensure that, first of all, that doesn't happen. And then when it does, there's stiff penalties for it. Yeah. We don't seem to be getting any reassurance from that particular end.
There are reassurances. But as I said, ideally, a national platform is most efficient because you can't stop people coming in and out of any state. Mm-hmm. But when we say we are registering residents of Lagos State, we have a law that provides for that, okay? And the law also provides for data security, provides for penalties in case of forgery or data theft and things like that. So we do have a legal structure for dealing with that. And whenever you are going to have this kind of thing anyway, you must have a law that sets it up and that will make all of those provisions. You see, those questions will always arise, whatever system you want to create. There are fears, there are things you have to look out for, there are things you have to cater for. So if we get paralyzed by the fear that, maybe my details will be stolen or will be released and so on and so forth, then we won't move. So we are moving, and as those issues arise, we have laws to deal with them. And if those laws prove inadequate, we go back to the House of Assembly and make them even more efficient.
For now, what do we have in specific, in concrete terms? What do we have?
No, we have the residency registration. The agency has a law that creates it. Mm-hmm. And that law also recognizes the security, the personal safety and security of individuals whose records will be collated. And it makes some provisions for criminal sanctions, crimes surrounding data. And our general criminal law also has provisions which you will be surprised can deal with a lot of these things. Theft, data theft is also covered by the general criminal law.
Okay, so anyone who misuses
data? Yeah, misuse of data and so on and so forth. They are all catered for.
Have you had any state request any assistance from Lagos about data of anyone they're looking for?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
But again, how can this, because this registration, I'm trying to marry it to crime fighting, and maybe we've seen some locals in some places, especially in Lagos State, try to have their own security to watch over their streets, watch over their community, and see how they can actually push crime away from such communities. Can this also help when you talk about residents getting to know themselves or getting to know if you're a resident of Lagos?
Oh, definitely. As I said, if we are known, all of us, then the state or government or whatever administrative structure we have trying to make life easier for all of us will be more efficient simply by knowing the details of everyone, so that if something happens, at least we have a starting point. Let us say at a crime scene, some fingerprints are taken, Well, what is the use of that if you don't have any database to run it through? It means that fingerprint you've taken cannot be useful until you have checked everyone. You've asked everyone to come and give their fingerprint and you check it against that. But if you already have a database, then you can check it against the database. The alternative is to say all of the suspects, in that particular circumstance should come. But the way it works in more advanced countries is that they have a database that they run it through. So no matter what, whether it's a small vigilante group or community development association or anything, they can all rely on records that we are keeping as a state. Someone mentioned earlier that so many agencies are trying to collect records and so on and so forth. we now we are streamlining all that in Lagos State, okay? Because we found at a point that even the records that are being collected by Agency A may not even be useful to Agency B because of the format. If you use your surname first here, and you use your first name first there, or you just omit your middle name in the other place, we can't even be sure that you are the same. So what we've done is to standardize our forms so that you give your full names in the order in which we want it in every agency. And then the format of your address too is prescribed and everything, so that with the residency registration, we now can marry all your records. And we know that really this is the person that we are dealing with.
Because once we had someone who came, we were looking at some of the crisis in Benue concerning herdsmen, and our guest here did say some of those who came to attack some villages were actually speaking in a foreign language. Some were speaking in French. So that is why we're saying that it's imperative that we get to know ourselves, we get to do things. But again, how do you make everyone known? For instance, in a locality where I live, must we now have a meeting where we get to know that this man or this woman is new here, or this person is, because we're saying this in the event that someone who is strange comes to your community. Should we have a means whereby we know that a new person has moved into our locality?
On the official side, it's good if we had something like Lagos State is doing now, the residency registration, where we know if we were to go there to check, we will find that this person was a member of this society or was not. That is one.
Okay, that's for someone that has moved.
Yeah. Then within the community, there are various levels of association. Families know each other, community development associations, and so many other, even schools, people taking children to school get to know each other. So I don't see any alternative to all of those informal groupings, because you cannot really say, okay, everybody living in Ikeja, we are going to meet some. Even if we were to meet there, we won't still know each other. But let our records be on a system so that we are all known. I may not know you, but if I were to check the system, I will know that you live somewhere around my street.
What about forensic labs? Are we working towards any?
Yes. We are also working, you see, for now, we have to work with the police, okay? And there is no option. As a prosecutor, I know that my work depends entirely on the efficiency of the police. If they gather the proper evidence, my work is easier. If they fail to, I will just be going to court and not achieving much. So we are working with them. We've run some training programs for police investigators. We are also working with the British government, the Directorate for International Development, in developing a program of training for police investigators, so that collection of forensic evidence, crime scene management, and all of those may sound very basic things, but we don't see them a lot in the police as we have it today. So we are trying our best in this regard to work with the police to improve the efficiency. So we are working on the training. We are doing some directly by ourselves, and we are getting assistance in doing more.
Okay. We also understand, I mean, you heard the Minister of State talk about his role in Lagos, that it was all misconstrued and misinterpreted, and none of such happened. He only went there to see what was going on.
Okay.
Is that the case?
Well, it's an interesting perspective. And maybe, let's look at it this way. I had part of that. He is a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, okay? He happens to be Minister of State for Defense. So he goes about with a small detachment of military personnel. Okay, so imagine he comes to a building site which is cordoned off, as it's supposed to be. And he enters the site, of course, without getting anyone's permission to enter. He does, with his armed men, okay? And then, as he has said, he took pictures of the place. And he also said he didn't discuss with anyone because he didn't like to be quoted. How do you interpret that as a contractor on site? I mean, if I was going by, I just stopped by, I'll probably be stopped at the gate and told to go back, that construction is going on, it's not safe to come in here and so on, I will go back. But if someone comes with the military personnel and gains entry, of course by force, because he couldn't have been allowed. This is not a place where you allow people into. Then there are question marks there and there, because the contractor was genuinely apprehensive.
But ever since then, did work stop at the site?
Work stopped for a while. We gave the contractor assurances that he should proceed, that we were ready, we would take up the consequences. And
okay, so work is going on now.
So work is going on now.
Okay, we've got this question from EIA. It says, we should please ask you, why is Lagos blocking the use of the FOI Act?
That's a big misconception. We are not blocking the use of the Freedom of Information Act. In fact, the situation is that today, if there's any information that is required, that is not secret. It's not every information generated in the course of the state service that can be disclosed just because someone asked. Definitely there is confidential information. But the ones that are not confidential, I'm Attorney General, I give information on a daily basis. When people petition, they're asking for this and that, we give those. And even the particular one that has been controversial, the ECO project, you see, it happens to be a World Bank loan, okay? I know, and this can be verified, that the manner in which the loan was applied was even published in the newspapers. And there is another publication that was even to come up, I think about now or soon it will come up. Even the processes of the World Bank does not allow you to take money and use it in another way. The reporting system, even the World Bank itself is a source of information. So when people say that we are blocking Freedom of Information Act, they are just being mischievous. There's no information that you want that is not confidential that we don't release. Lagos State releases, our budgets, annual accounts. Hardly would you find that anywhere, but every year we do up the annual accounts of how money has been sent, and it is published and released.
Oh,
so
yes.
really,
you're saying that if you write for information from any agency of government,
if you write for information, you will get it, if it is not confidential information. And you would agree with me that in running government, some information must be confidential, at least at some point in time. Maybe later they become not so confidential. Because
the reason why that question is important, my colleague asked, is it wasn't just one person who was asking. Another person also raised a particular question. So it's definitely a conception that has been going about that Lagos State was blocking the FOI Act.
No. And anyway, let me say this with all sense of responsibility. The FOI Act does not apply to Lagos State. Why? So I didn't say what I said because FOI Act applies to Lagos. It is clear on the concurrent legislative list. If it is public records of the Federation, it is the National Assembly that will make the law, like the FOI Act. But regarding the public records of the state, it is the Lagos State House of Assembly that must make a law to regulate it.
So
and
Lagos
that makes
cannot
sense.
domesticate the FOI Act?
What we call domestication, well, you may call it that, but it means that the Lagos State House of Assembly will pass its own law, maybe in similar terms or in the same terms as the Freedom of Information.
Do they have to pass their own law?
They do have to. No, you have to.
Okay.
You have to. It cannot. The federal law cannot automatically apply in Lagos State.
And no such
and
initiative has been taken?
It is actually before the House.
Right now.
It hasn't been passed, but it is there, I assure you that.
But you're saying that in spite of that, you're still giving information?
Oh, yes.
All right. Ade Ipaye is Attorney General of Lagos State. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Okay, we've got another perspective today on Sunrise Daily, so join us again.